Skilled managers equals high morale, equals all that cool stuff that you cannot pay for or punish for. And this is a really simplistic concept, but I want you to memorize this because this is going to be foundational as we go forward. Skilled managers is how you get high morale, and high morale is the only route, it's the requirement to get all the stuff that you listed earlier that you cannot pay more for and you can't punish for. And again, this is where I usually say this. It's not rocket science, and I know it's intuitive, but I don't believe that every manager has this on their radar. That's what morale's about. Now the problem is, what word in that formula have we not dug into yet? Skilled. And this is where we get to the Peter Principle. So does anybody know the Peter Principle? Here's how it works. Very snarky principle. Employees tend to get promoted to their level of incompetence. Now please don't sit here and be insulted, but let me tell you how this works. Because this actually happens in almost every organization. Here's how it works. At least to some degree it's happening here. Here's how it works. You are a really good fill in the blank accountant. To reward you, we're going to do what?
Promote you.
Make you the manager of the accountants, because the very skills that made you a good accountant automatically make you a good manager, right? You're a really good engineer. To reward you, we're going to make you the manager of the engineers, because the skills that make you a great engineer also make you a great manager, right? No. Especially engineers. Just kidding. Just kidding. Any engineers in the room, don't be mad at me. I work with a lot of engineers. The analogy is this. You're a really good nurse. Starting Monday, we're going to make you the surgeon. Now, is it possible that that nurse watched enough surgeries for 30 years that he or she could go and do a surgery? It's possible. But I'm not going to go to that hospital, right? I'm not going to take that risk. And this is, I consider this not only sad, I consider it insulting. The implication is that management is not an actual skill set. And this happens everywhere. And it's not as black and white as I just said. You know, normally when we look at the engineer or the accountant, we're seeing some people skills, right? We're seeing something. So I'm not saying it's as black and white as all that. It's not necessarily random. Although, side note, in some organizations, it's very random. In fact, there are some organizations, believe it or not, that promote people because they've been there longer than everyone else.
The power of hanging around.
The power of hanging around. That's enough to get me into a management role, right? So that's the ultimate Peter Principle. But most organizations, even that aren't doing it that poorly, are doing Peter Principle to some degree. In fact, you know Peter Principle is happening when you ask a group of managers, how much leadership management training did you get when you got here to become a manager? Well, if the answer is 0 or close, that's a really good sign that we're doing some Peter Principle. Right? And so I'm not saying this to insult anybody. It happens all the time. It happened to me when I was 23 in one of my jobs. It just happens, right? And it's nothing to be ashamed of, although it's something we need to fix. Because here's the problem. The higher you go in an organization, the more people you impact, right? Now you had the skills to do the job you were doing before, but now you've moved to a place where you don't have all the skills and you're still expected to do that job. And now you're impacting more people. That's how we get low morale work environments, and that's how we get a lot of other problems that come with that. Does that ring true? Any questions or comments about that concept?
I think the other flip side to it is that sometimes people get promoted into those roles even though that's not what they aspire to be. Mm-hmm. And so
they're not even motivated.
It's their growth path that's
yes.
defined by the organization, and there aren't alternative growth paths that
yes.
allow them to stay out of management.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We believe in having more than one track that we would call growth, because the idea that only getting to a place where you're leading others is, if that's the only growth track, that's not necessarily a skill set everybody has or even wants. And so that's unfortunate if that's the only track to development and growth, right? Any other comments or thoughts on this, on morale or the Peter Principle? What's the antidote? No, first the snarky cartoon. And then what's the antidote to the Peter Principle? What's the antidote? How do we fix the Peter Principle? It's pretty obvious. Yeah, it's training. I mean, it's really, I'm not saying it's easy to do, but it's a really simple concept, right? This is everything from a really good onboarding process for managers to ongoing training. And specifically, I want to get kind of narrow in on this. The kind of training that we're talking about is not, hey, managers, everyone just run out and find some random training somewhere. Everybody just go find whatever you want and come back. That's not horrible. It's better than nothing. It's not super helpful. There's no way you're going to come back on the same page, right? There's no way you're going to come back holding each other accountable to certain types of leadership skills. There's no way that actually builds into the culture. The kind of leadership training we're talking about is what we're doing right now, which is where leaders get together and we say, let's lead from the same sheet of music. Let's learn some high impact, some value-based skills, some best practices, and let's do those together, and let's make sure we're held accountable to that. So that's the answer right there. So here's the bottom line, folks. Morale is your job. And that's kind of what I want to get on your radar as you're coming into work in the morning. Right? It's not your whole job, of course, but it's your job.